it's Captain Blake. In here, sir, and keep your head down. There's a sniper out there.
There's a damn quagmire out there. Everything all right up here?
Not exactly, sir.
Where's Sergeant Morris?
I'm afraid he's copped it, sir. He's through here.
Somebody got him at damn close range.
Yes, I found him up on the ridge, sir. Looks as though the sniper only won by a short head.
What was he doing up there?
Up there looking for Private McPherson, sir. He was up there trying to get the sniper.
Where's his watch?
On the table outside with the rest of his effects.
And we better bury him while it's still dark, sir.
No, not yet.
I'm not quite convinced that the most unpopular sergeant in the British Army was shot by a Jerry sniper.
Good evening, and welcome to WHODUNNIT on the Western Front, where all is not quiet. Now, you've just seen what seems to be a most convenient casualty in World War II. Now, just how convenient and whodunit is up to you to find out. Now, also helping you to solve the mystery are this week's guests. First, the likely lad himself, Rodney Bewes. Good evening. Rodney, tell me, were you ever in the services?
I was in the RAF. I wasn't in the Army. I was in the RAF because I liked the colour. I thought blue was nicer than khaki.
Very reasonable, yes. And now one of our most talented and beautiful actresses, Miss Billy Whitelaw. I'm frightened to ask if you were ever in service uniform, Billy,
No,
were you?
I wasn't, no.
You weren't
I would have
temporarily
liked to have
arrested.
been in the Land Army, I think. I think that's rather special.
The Land Army. Suzette Terry's brigade, yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yes, that dates me. Now, although this is a military case, this week we've called in the Special Branch Inspector himself, George Sewell. Yes, George, were you in the services?
I was in the RAF, but I don't remember Rodney.
Then both of you were lying. And someone who solved it last time he was on the panel, Reginald Bosanquet. And you, sir?
The answer is yes, sir, I was. I was in the Green Jackets doing my national service in Germany. And if I've seen right on that brief flash, I think your chaps are wearing King's Royal Rifle Corps flashes on their epaulette.
Are they really?
I think so.
That
Green and
augurs
black.
well for the results of whodunit. Thank you. Well, that's our panel. We've also selected 4 people from our studio audience to try and solve whodunit, so welcome to you. Now, don't forget that when you see the suspects, when you see their stories in flashback, one or more of them could be lying, so don't believe everything that you see or hear. Right, let's go back to somewhere in France in 1940, where Captain Blake is suspicious about the death of Sergeant Morris.
Is this all?
Yes, sir.
Right, I'll start with you, Young. You 2 others can go in the kitchen and get a brew up going.
Sir?
A milk and sugar, sir?
Right, we run to such luxuries, yes. Let's have some more light in here, shall we?
Sir?
And shut the door behind you.
Sir? I don't know what you're going on about, sir. Sergeant Morris was shot by a Jerry.
Just answer my questions.
Yes, sir.
Now, Sergeant Morris was supposed to phone me at 2200 with a situation report. That's why I'm here. He never came through.
Well, he tried, sir. He'd just come back from doing a recce. Bad news, lads. Our lovable Sarge is back. They put that fag out, Dusty.
Close those shutters and let's get some light in here. I suppose you realise that if I'd been in the German army, you'd have all been dead by now. You're supposed to challenge, young. You'd be on a charge for that.
Well, I could see it was you, Sarge.
Don't answer back! I'll make sure you never get a stripe. Hello, who's been smoking?
Smoky, Sarge?
Move your boot, Miller. other one. I've warned you about smoking with the shutters open. Give me your fags.
Oh, come on, Sarge, I've only got a couple left.
Give me your fags, Miller. Rhodes.
Sergeant.
Trample on them. Well, don't prance about, young. Get outside and guard the place.
What can I do from the window, Sarge? There's a Jerry sniper out there.
Get outside that door!
Suppose you have to all over again.
So I went out on guard. And not long after that, Sergeant Morris came out and headed towards the ridge over there.
Where were you when he came up?
Crouching down by the corner of that old barn outside.
Did you see his face?
No?
Then how do you know it was Sergeant Morris?
Well, I could see his stripes, couldn't I?
Go on.
Well, sir, I've got pretty good eyesight, so I watched him for a couple of 100 yards. Then a lot of flares started to light up the area. He throws himself to the ground and crawls out of sight.
And that's the last you saw of him?
No, a few minutes later, everything went quiet, and the Jerry's sent up one of those very lights. And I saw the sergeant just for a second up on the ridge there. I heard a shot, and then he fell.
About how far away was this?
About 400 yards.
How can you be sure it was the sergeant?
Well, when I told the others, we waited about half an hour, and that's the spot old Rhodesy found him at.
I see. Right, that'll do for the moment. Get out on guard again.
So,
And let me know if your keen eyesight can detect Private McPherson anywhere, will you?
yes, sir.
Welcome back to WHODUNNIT and our panel of experts who are trying to find out who arranged the sergeant's farewell, or should I say his indefinite leave. But before we rejoin the action, let me recap the story so far. The hated Sergeant Morris has been killed. Captain Blake suspects foul play and has already questioned Private Young. Private Young says that Sergeant Morris had come in from patrol and couldn't get the phone to work. Young says that he was sent out on guard duty, saw the sergeant leave the farmhouse, and by the light of a flare saw the sergeant shot on the ridge. The other people seen so far are Private Rhodes and Private Dusty Miller, who's about to be questioned.
How are you getting on with that tea, Miller?
Oh, sir, coming, sir.
Oh, thanks.
Sir?
Now, let's hear your version, shall we?
Sorry, sir.
The sergeant came back from patrol. Take it from there.
Oh, yeah, well, it was his usual foul temper. Then the phone wouldn't work. He sent Young out on guard.
Well, don't prance about, young. Get outside and guard the place.
Well, couldn't I do it from the window, Sarge? There's a Jerry sniper out there.
Get outside that door! I've got eyes in my backside, Miller, so keep your hands off my fags.
I was just trying to tell him on again, Sarge. Anyway, you know how he smokes cigars?
Yeah, I've heard that one before. Oh,
That one was a bit close, wasn't it?
hey, that person's still out there looking for that sniper.
We
can't get through to HQ. The phone's dead, Sarge.
It's no good asking you, Mugs. I'll have to go and find him myself.
Well, then Young came in and said he'd thought he'd seen a sergeant shot on the ridge. Waited half hour, then Rhodes volunteered to go and look for him.
Volunteer?
Well, you know, sir, volunteered army fashion. We drew lots, he lost.
Yes, that makes sense. Ask Private Rhodes to come in, will you?
Sir. Hey, Rhodes, hey! Yeah? Captain wants to see you. I was just telling him how we drew lots and you lost.
Miller.
Drew lots. Oh, yes. Oh, yes, drawing the lot, sir. Never had a lot of luck. Never won on the horses either.
Just how did you draw lots?
Well, we drew straws, like Dusty said. Right, Dusty?
Yeah, right.
So, you went out to look for the sergeant?
Yes, that's right. So I went up to the ridge where Young thought he saw him fall, sir. McPherson! McPherson!
Get some light in here, quick!
No need for that. He's dead all right.
Yeah, right through the art.
Goodbye, Sarge.
And shortly after that, sir, you arrived.
Halt! Who goes there?
Oh, Sergeant McPherson's back.
McPherson? No, it's that old Fiddler, you Burke.
Get inside, it's a Jerry sniper out there.
Oh, I got him, didn't I?
Got who, Private McPherson?
Oh, Jerry Sniper, sir, up on the ridge. I've got his rifle, look, they got the new night sights on it.
Ah. About how long ago was it?
Oh, about, half hour, maybe more. Why, sir?
Because apparently he got Sergeant Morris.
Funny, I didn't hear no shot. Well, if I'd known that, I wouldn't have bothered to shoot the Jerry, would I? I'd have shook his hand.
Now look here, McPherson, I don't give a damn what you thought about Sergeant Morris, but while I'm here, you'll show some respect.
Yes, sir.
Well, I think I've found out all I need to know. By the way, McPherson, where'd you get hold of that cigarette?
Oh, off the Jerry, sir. But the funny thing is, look, it's an English brand.
Well, yeah, he must have shot one of our blokes and then nicked his cigarettes.
Yes, I have no doubt he did.
Hey, that's funny. That's the same brand as the sergeant smoked.
Well, obviously, it's the sniper that shot the sergeant.
Yeah, right.
But this hasn't been fired recently. Although I have no doubt that one of yours has.
Captain Blake has taken a little time checking the other rifles, but he should be with us at any minute.
Squad. Quick march. Right wheel. Squad. Ball. Left hand. Dismiss, sit down. All present correct, sir.
Thank you, Captain Blake. Now, panel. Before we start this military tribunal, you can, if you want, have any 20 seconds of the action replayed. We'll start with the ladies first, as usual. Billy, which replay would you like?
I'm a bit worried about someone saying he was shot through the heart and he seemed to have an enormous hole in his back. Could I see the part where he's carried back in, please?
Where he's carried back in. Yes, of course you can. Right, Rodney, what would you like?
I like the very first bit from the officer. It's nothing to do with class, this. I've always liked officers. The officer seemed to know immediately that something wrong had happened. He seemed to know absolutely from the word go that there was something up. And he put his watch down on he put a watch down on a table. And from that moment inwards, we knew that some dirty deeds had happened. I'd like to see the very first beginning bit when the officer said, whatever he said, we're going to have words about this, and he put a watch down on the table. I always wonder why there's a shot of a watch going down on the table. You know, if you see Audie Murphy with the machine gun killing the Hun, you know, you go in on Audie Murphy and you see his hands and his wristwatch and you know something's happened. I saw that officer put that watch down. I want to know why. So the bit I'd like would be the very first moment when he put that watch down.
And so you shall. Right, George.
The bit where Miller was supposed to be going for the cigarettes, but I'm not sure if he wasn't touching the telephone.
Where Miller was going for the cigarettes.
And the sergeant said, I've got eyes in somewhere. Wherever it was.
Don't be shy, George, please.
Well, wherever it was, sergeants always proclaim that they have eyes in.
Well, what?
The back of his head. It was
Well out. Well out.
Euphemism.
Yes. Right. Reginald Bosanquet.
Well, Rodney, he's preempted the bit I wanted to see again, because I noticed the watch, too.
Well,
I
have
wondered
another.
about it.
Oh,
Well,
sorry
I'd like...
about that.
no, that's fine, Rodney.
You can see that as well. What would you like for yourself?
I'll see that as well. I'd like the bit at the end about the cigarettes.
The bit at the end.
At the very end, when they're discussing the... Just before the officer says the rifle hasn't been fired and so on, there's a discussion about where the chap got a cigarette. And remember, and it was a British cigarette.
Yes, indeed.
Can I also ask another question? Are all 5 equally deemed to be culpable, or is the officer ruled out?
We'll come to that later.
Thank you, sir.
I think that's a leading question, isn't it?
Yes, well, he can lead it later on. Yes.
No, I think,
Right, well, now, while we're finding...
Your Honour, I think that's a leading question, Your Honour.
Order, please, order. While we're finding these replays, we'll start with some questions. Right, Rodney Bewes, a question from you, please.
What I'd like to know is, if I could talk to Captain Blake, I wanted to know why, in the first place, he thought something was wrong. Why, in the first place, he thought foul play had taken place. This is in a theatre of war, right? There's a lot of people being killed all the time. This guy's been killed, this sergeant's been killed. Now, why should it not have been the Jerrys? Why should it be a question of the baddies haven't done it, one of the goodies did it? When did it strike you for the first time that foul play had taken place?
I managed to ascertain that fairly early on. I can't tell you exactly where, because I think that really ought to stay until we have further investigation.
But I think that's very important.
I
think
it's absolutely vital
I mean,
myself.
I was court-martialed twice.
Yeah.
When I was in the RA, I was.
Yeah.
2765108, SAT views, you never forget it.
What for?
But when you thought, well, the first one was disobeying a direct order, and the second one was for being scruffy, which my mother's never forgiven me for.
And well, thanks.
But and you can't answer that. You can't answer why you thought somebody in a theatre of war, and there's a lot of death.
Well, I quite agree. I mean, it is something that.
Why do you think it was one of your own chaps?
Well, there is going to be a further investigation into this whole business, and I really think I ought to keep it until that point.
Excuse me interrupting you, Captain.
Yes.
Actually, the Captain Blake did say, did he not? I may be wrong about this, but I think that he said that it was at very close range.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Well, over the trenches, and the whistle blows, and you go over the top. You know, it's all at close range. We're talking about snipers and things like that.
Snipers, close range? Well, perhaps so. Excuse me interrupting you. We're ready for the first replay. And the first replay is yours, Rodney. You'd like to see where the officer looks at the sergeant's effects.
And we better bury him while it's still dark, sir. No, not yet. I'm not quite convinced that the most unpopular sergeant in the British Army was shot by a Jerry sniper.
Yes? Any help to you?
Yes, I think quite a lot.
Good, I'm delighted to hear it. Billy Whitelaw, one question from you, please.
Yes, I'm afraid my question is to Captain Blake as well, because I've forgotten something. At some point, somewhere, now you may not have been in the room, and if you are not in the room, am I allowed to ask the person who was in the room?
Miss Whitelaw, you're free to ask anybody in it.
Thank you. Captain Blake, were you in the room when somebody said it's 22 hours?
No, I actually said it myself, yes.
You said it
Yes,
yourself.
well, this
now, was
chap
it 22 hours then, when you came in...
Oh, absolutely not, no.
No, what was it then? What time?
Oh, I suppose it'd be about 23:30 by then.
So your 22 hours is referring to the time that this wretched sergeant was shot?
Oh, no, absolutely not. No, I was up at the HQ, so-called, at the time, and he was supposed to phone me at 2200, and he didn't.
And he didn't?
So I came out to, you know, have a shufty, see what was going on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do carry on, please. Be at liberty to ask any questions.
Can I go on?
Yes, of course you can. Yes.
I don't want to give my
Not at
fellow
all.
panellists my little
Feel free,
clue
we have
that
plenty
I
of
may
time.
have. Yes. I can't transfer this to somebody else now.
Yes, why not?
Why not? Why
Of
not?
course.
I can't call you Mr. McPherson. What do I call you? Private McPherson.
Private,
Well, you were out throughout the whole... Did you know, actually, the sergeant had been killed? You didn't know until you came back in, did you?
Well, no, it's quite true, miss. I didn't know until I got back.
How long had you been out?
Well, I've been out a couple of hours, actually, because we'd been sent out just before... Oh, yeah, just before it got dusk. Because we knew there was a sniper out there, and I was the one that was sent out to get him.
A couple of hours, from 22 hours, 23 hours. That'd be about 9 o'clock.
Something like that.
Thank you very much.
That's all right.
We're ready now for the next replay, which is George Sewell's. He'd like to see where Sergeant Miller, or where Miller, I beg your pardon. You're a corporal or a private? You're
Private.
A private, I beg your pardon. Private Miller looks for the sergeant's cigarettes.
I've got eyes in my backside, Miller, so keep your hands off my face.
I was just trying to telephone again, Sarge. Anyway, you know how he smokes cigars?
Yeah, I've heard that one before. Oh,
That was a bit close, wasn't it? Hey!
Yes. Anything to say about that?
Where do you get cigars in the middle of a battle?
Not you, son. Not
Sorry.
you. Right, a question from you now, please.
I just did want to know, you seem to know before you'd actually pulled the bolt back that the sniper's rifle hadn't been fired recently. How did you know that?
Well, when I was going over to the door, I had a quick sniff at it, you know. No cordite, nothing. That was just mere confirmation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all?
Just for the moment, yes.
Right. Mr. Bosanquet, would you like to ask a question?
Obergruppen's Turnbaumführer, may I speak?
Of course.
Thank you very much. I want to ask the officer, what regiment are you in?
69th Rifle Brigade.
69th?
Yeah.
Why are you wearing the wrong cap badge and brown boots?
I'm not.
Because that's a court-martial offence, sir.
Definitely a
You're
simple
not
question.
allowed to wear brown boots in the rifles. Why are you
Huh?
wearing brown boots?
Well, it's rather a long story. Do you really want
Which
to
we
tell it?
haven't got time for tonight. And there I must interrupt you. Thank heavens for that. We have now a replay for Billy Whiteclaw. She'd like to see where the sergeant is carried in.
Get some light in here, quick!
There's no need for that. He's dead all right.
Yeah, right through the art.
Goodbye, Sarge.
Yes, Miss Whitelaw.
I still couldn't see who carried you. Can I ask a general question? Which one of you carried him in? I can't...
It was me.
It was you. Yes, it was. You gentlemen have seen a lot of battle. If someone is shot in the heart, do they come out in a great big hole in their back?
Oh, yes.
Always?
Yes, they do, yes. Yes, the exit hole of the bullet is enormous. The
So
entrance
if I
hole
was
is
shot
small.
in the front, I'd come out in a great big hole in the back. I'd come out in a great big hole in the
I
front.
wouldn't like to see that.
I wouldn't like to see that.
Yes.
Yes.
Have you anything further you would like to ask?
But that is an
That is
actual
absolute
fact.
fact.
If you're
Yes, I can
shot
assure you
in
that
the
is
heart,
fact.
the thing comes. I
Yes,
see.
irrespective of whether it's a dum-dum bullet or not, I am here to say that...
I think it depends on the weapon, and I think it depends on the range that it's fired at. Now, if it was fired at a very close range, then it could be such a big hole. George Sewell might know more about ballistics than I do, private roads. But if he was fired if he was shot in the back, you know, with this incredible rifle we saw with the telescopic sight, I agree with you, it couldn't make such a mess. But if he was shot in the front with a 303 rifle bullet, I would imagine it wouldn't have made such a big hole as that.
Well, I think what we sort of talked about it, obviously. What we thought was that the sergeant actually was up on the sniper, and he was shot by the sniper at very close range, and this is why there was such a big wound.
But he was definitely shot from the front and not from the back.
Oh, yes.
The
because
ballistics expert.
Because the exit wound was in the back. Yeah. So he must have been shot from the front.
Have you anything to say about this ballistics expert, George Sewell?
It's a big label to carry. I'm not really, but it depends so much. I would have thought that a 303 very close range would have gone right through.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
It's when it's at longer range, when it starts to fiddle around a bit and it hits a bit and starts splattering out that the big wound. But of course, it would depend so much on the type of. It looks as if it could have come from Blake's revolver, actually, with you know, a heavy caliber revolver bullet fired at close range. Yeah. That would do that.
Perhaps the Hun was using dum-dum.
Indeed.
Ah, perhaps, yes.
I think George might have really hit on something important there.
Yes,
actually.
can I hold it 1 minute,
you can,
please? Yes, because we're ready for Reginald Bosanquet's replay, and he'd like to see the bit where the questioning is going on about the German cigarettes.
By the way, Macpherson, where'd you get hold of that cigarette?
Oh, off the Jerry, sir. But the funny thing is, look, it's an English brand.
Well, yeah, he must have shot one of our blokes and then nicked his cigarettes.
Yes, I have no doubt he did.
Yeah, that's funny. That's the same brand as the sergeant smoked.
Well, obviously, it's the sniper that shot the sergeant.
Yeah, right.
But this hasn't been fired recently. Although I have no doubt that one of yours has.
May I speak to Rifleman Young?
You may indeed, sir.
You said, I think, at the beginning, you only had 2 fags left, right? The very beginning of the film, when the sergeant took, it was your cigarettes he took.
No, sir,
it was Miller, sorry.
No, it was Miller,
I got
sir.
the wrong man. You only had 2 left.
Sir?
Had you more earlier on in the day?
Oh, yes, sir.
Did you give them to anyone else?
Oh, yeah, well, we share them out.
Yeah, that's all I want to know. Thanks.
Open questions. Who's got something important to ask?
I'd like to say there must be something to do with the time element, right? There's a lot of, you know, like, not just because I asked for a replay about a watch. But when Captain Blake picked up the watch, he looked at it, and then he decided there was something to do with that watch. And there are various references in the film about time. And I wonder why. If I could ask Captain Blake, when you picked up the watch, when you gave it what I would call a rather long look, why did you look at that watch like that?
Well, it wasn't to see what time it said.
No, I'm sure it wasn't.
No.
But it was because you thought there was something important to do with that watch.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not putting words in your mouth, I'm just asking you.
Well, I thought it might be significant, yes.
Yes, I think it might be significant too, yeah.
Can I ask Rifleman Rhodes something? When you went out to pick up the body, you called for Macpherson. Where was he? Did you make contact with him?
No, I didn't. No. I just wanted some help.
And he wasn't around?
No.
No. Should he have been?
Well...
Did you expect him to be?
Yes.
When you called?
Yes, I did, because he was looking for the sniper.
Yeah.
George?
The casting of lots about who was going out. You were asked by the officer about how you chose who to go out there, and you didn't know what it was all about, and Miller had to really sort of throw it into you. Why was that? Why were you so indecisive about that?
Yes, I was hoping you wouldn't ask that, actually. Well, the fact was that we didn't draw lots at all, actually. He rather sort of bullied me into going out there. In fact, he said he was going to do terrible things to me if I didn't, and I was a bit scared of him, to be honest, so I went.
Miller was blackmailing you to tell a lie?
No. Well, I mean, somebody had to go out and see what had happened to the sergeant.
Oh, yeah.
And I mean, it was We knew there was a sniper around. We didn't know what had happened to the sergeant. There was quite a lot of action going on. So obviously nobody particularly wanted to go out there. And so that's what happened.
Could we clear up one very simple point? Captain Blake, had you fired your revolver that day?
No.
Could I ask...
Very quick one.
Yes. I don't know, you're Corporal, no, Trooper Miller. Trooper Miller, yes.
Rifleman.
Rifleman, yes. You seem to be very anxious to tell your colleague, Young or Rhodes would it be now, that you had just said to your superior officer that you had drawn lots to do something or another.
Yeah, that's right,
Therefore, you were cooking this story up, weren't you? Because that wasn't true.
Yeah, that's right, monsieur.
Why? Why were you cooking the story up?
Well, none of us wanted to go out there to get him, you see. So, I made him go out and get him. Have a look.
Thank you. I'm afraid there I must stop because question time is now over. Now, panel, this week we're not only going to ask you to write down who done it, but also who is guilty and as many clues as you can. Let's fox them. Now, this applies to our audience panel as well because one of you could win our trophy. Now, after the break, it will all be revealed. But I'll give you one final clue. The regimental motto is Fere Feriturum, which freely translates as do unto others before they do it to you. See you in a couple of minutes. Welcome back. Now, I have copies of all the cards from the experts, so they can't change their minds. But first, we have a winner from our audience panel. In fact, we don't have one winner, we have two winners.
Oh, very good.
Mr. C. Wise from 592 Bath Road, Taplow, Maidenhead, and Mrs. W. Shackleton from 155 Upton Court Road, Slough. Congratulations. I've only got one here, but both of you will win the WhoDunnit trophy. We'll make sure that you get one as soon as possible. Now, panel, I want you to give us your solutions as to WhoDunnit and give us a clue. Rodney.
Well, I wrote down that Captain Blake did it. And it's because I couldn't spell Macpherson. And do you want to know why I thought Captain Blake did it?
Yes, quickly.
I was afraid you'd say that. First clue is the watch, and he kept it. And the second thing is I thought it was so easy to put the blame on Rhodes and Macpherson. I'm reading from my card now. I thought it's so easy to put the blame on Rhodes and Macpherson. And the third clue was, what's Billy Whitelaw's phone number?
I'll tell you later.
Right, Billy Whitelaw, WhoDunnit?
Well, I thought Captain Blake to begin with for exactly the same reasons that Rodney had done. Then I suddenly changed my mind. I thought, no, I was worried about why Captain Blake kept that watch. But I suddenly plumped for Miller and Rhodes. And I don't blame you. I think you had a swine of a sergeant there. And whatever you did with the telephone didn't sort of... I have a feeling you may have deliberately put that phone out of action, Trooper Miller, Gunner Miller.
Rifleman.
Rifleman. And,
thank you very much. George Sewell.
Well, I plumped for Miller. I think there was some messing around with that telephone. He didn't seem to be touching the sergeant's cigarettes to me. He was messing around with that telephone. I think he put it out of order in order to mess up some kind of time element so they could never know exactly what time the sergeant came back because he would report in immediately. He was being threatened by the sergeant for being put on a charge for smoking. Obviously hated him, and he told lies about that, drawing lots as to who was going to go out and get him.
Thank you very much. Reginald Bosanquet, WhoDunnit?
Do you give them magnifying glasses because your picture is so hard to see? I think Macpherson did it. I don't think there was a sniper. You don't go and collect a sniper's rifle and his cigarettes. I mean, a sniper's a long way away from you, and you across no man's land, and you can't see at night whether you shot a sniper or not to start with. And I think Macpherson got the cigarette earlier in the day from Miller.
Thank you very much indeed.
very good.
Very good indeed. Yes, well, that's what you all think, is it? Good. Now we shall see. Will the real WhoDunnit stand up, please?
Rhodes, Young and Miller on your feet. And done.
Yes, well, I did warn you that it might be more than one person, didn't I? Well, yes, well, that's it. Good. Now then, that means that Billy Whiteclaw wins.
Do I?
Yes, of course, you do indeed, because you, of course, had Miller and Rhodes. You originally put down Miller and Young.
And I've got Young down here. I said, he's
know.
in a little panicked, I said.
Yes, well, there you are.
Have
You've
I
got
run
it
that?
right. You get a whodunit trophy, and you get £50 to go to a charity of your own choice.
Oh, how lovely.
Well done. Congratulations. Now, to stop any arguments, let's just show you how it was done, and even more important, the number of clues that they dropped. Sergeant Morris was shot in the room, and not out on the ridge, because he had clean hands when he was killed. His cigarette case was unmarked, so it could not have been in his pocket when he was shot. Now, all the privates, except McPherson, were in on the killing, and therefore lied. Now, in Young's flashback, the sergeant lit his cigarette with his right hand, but in Miller's, the sergeant used his left. Now, Miller was quick to invent the story of drawing straws, which Rhodes went along with. Young also lied when he said that he heard a shot and then saw the sergeant fall. At a quarter of a mile distance, he would have seen him fall first and then heard the shot. Now, let's see how it was done.
Flying!
Get back outside!
I'm not getting back outside here, mate.
Yeah, must be up your rocker! Right! You can all get up there and stay on guard!
Not bloody likely.
Oh. Like that, is it? Oh. Disobeying me, are you?
Yeah, goodbye, Sarge.
There was no actual clue as to who pulled the trigger, as all the rifles had been cleaned. So the captain deduced that they'd murdered the sergeant in collusion. It's a tricky one, wasn't it? Well, if we didn't get it right, we'll have another chance next week. Do you think a naked lady is worth £100,000? And would you risk prison for one? Well, somebody does next week. So until then, thank you, panel.
Thank you.
Thank you, cast. And good night. See you next week. And now, if you'll excuse me, I think that we're under fire.